because I feel the spirit moving here.
Hey man, the screen's a little messed up. Fix the screen first.
I'm sorry.
Fix your screen. Oh, there you go. Yeah,
I was watching this skit on the Today Show where they were honoring these amazing teachers and principals that were just going above and beyond, reaching out to students. And one that particularly caught my eye was this principal. I guess there's a couple of them now, a couple of stories like this. The one I happened to catch was this high school principal who had such a heart for his students that he literally drove over like 1,000-mile span to visit over 400 high school students to personally congratulate them for graduating, since they couldn't have a graduation ceremony. And, on one side of that, that's very heroic, that's very, touching, let a lot of people's heartstrings to do that kind of thing. But on another side of that, you're thinking, golly, how ineffective or should I say, like, archaic would that be if we had to do that on a day-to-day basis, right? In order to connect and reach out to people, you literally would have to drive everywhere and talk to them face to face just to get something done, right? And to me, that's kind of the power of the internet and cloud computing and all of this other stuff you guys have learned about, is that it really makes the world smaller. It makes the way we communicate with each other faster. We're able to reach way more people that we could have possibly reached by doing it in old school ways. But also think about all the people that don't know how to do the digital communication effectively and have to basically operate old school. Think about all the opportunities missed because they may have a big network, but they don't know how to get to that network faster. And so they kind of resign themselves to doing it the same way they've always done it. And I would challenge you, just like my organization has been challenged, to think about how could you expand your circle? How can you scale and influence, impact more people by learning and picking up these new tools of communication, or expanding on, the things that you already have picked up, but like, how can you do it better? How can you do it faster? That's my challenge to all of you, because I can tell you guys, we did the old school way with pitch night for almost 2 years. And the best crowd we were able to get was about what? Oh, a little over 50 people, Sean?
Yeah, about 50, 52.
And that was with a lot of prep. I mean, we spent the same amount of energy and effort getting those 50 something people to show up, feed them. They watched the presenters present their stuff live. And of course, that's a whole different experience. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't want to do that again. But I can tell you that when we had to exercise our digital marketing muscles this go round and present, not just this, we probably presented more presentations this time around than probably we had in a long time. 9 different presentations, all on one web page, all within the allotted time, because a lot of times when we were doing them live, people would run over 15 minutes, 20 minutes long presentations. Everything is done succinctly. Everything is done a little bit more organized. And within 2 hours, we already had 200 votes, as opposed to when we would do it live, it would be limited to the people that still stayed in the room after they had been in that room for over an hour and a half, because we wouldn't even have the voting until after everybody had presented. And a lot of people would leave early, or they would come for the refreshments and then they had to go to back to their classroom, or, or just they were busy, right? We live in a busy world. And so part of the advantage of having digital literacy and converting what you're currently doing in kind of a face-to-face world to a more virtual world is you can address that busyness and not give anybody an excuse to say, oh, well, I'm too busy. It's like, well, really, you don't have 2 minutes to just like go to this site real quick, click on this button real quick, those asks become a lot easier to make when you're able to translate what you do in a physical world to a digital world. And so when we go over this exercise real quick of doing PowerPoint voiceover, I want you to kind of think about, like, what kind of message would you like to put out to the world? What would you be willing to put out on YouTube if you've never put anything out on YouTube in your life? What would that message be? And so when I thought about that for this assignment, I was thinking, you know what? COVID has affected everybody, but I'm sure there's probably not a lot of voices from folks that haven't had the privilege of fast internet at home their whole career or their whole life. Hadn't had laptops in their house or desktops in their house for the last 10 years of their life. And what about those voices? Those are the voices I think sometimes that are missing out in the internet. And I'm not saying that you represent that voice, because I don't know your life and your situation, but I also know that y'all are parents like me, and that you've had to struggle balancing being this pseudo homeschool teacher, as well as, trying to get work done just like me. I had a board meeting yesterday with, some pretty important people, and my kids were screaming out the top of their lungs. Right. I mean, I closed the door and muffled the noise, but I mean, like, really, guys, like, you're trying to tell them to be quiet, and you're trying to be professional, but you're constantly distracted by the kids. So I know some of y'all are feeling me on this, that it's not easy trying to balance getting work done, but also have a good engagement with your loved ones, and try to keep everything organized too is insane too. And yeah, I agree. Somebody, Roselle, is chiming in saying, it's hard and it's stressful. But I will give you this, that it gets easier. It gets easier when you get to a point that this stuff I'm talking about becomes easy. Like right now, all of us, including myself, are on a bit of a learning curve, right? Like, you're still trying to figure out how to effectively use these tools that we've been showing you for the last 8 weeks, some of y'all. And normally we don't even run camps this long. But I appreciate the fact that we had to adjust to this new normal, because it hopefully really showed you guys that this isn't a joke. Like, this isn't some pie in the sky, oh, it's going to happen 10 years from now kind of thing. The future of work is today. And if you want to work in a white collar environment or move up the ranks and you don't have these skills in your back pocket, I'm not saying you're going to be ineffective, but you better have somebody on your team who does know how to use these tools, because you're going to get behind.
Innovate or evaporate. Remember?
That's right. You got to innovate or evaporate for sure. So I appreciate if you don't hear my heart tonight, I want you to hear this, that I really appreciate you guys sticking in with this. I know that we didn't keep everybody in these camps these last 8 weeks. I know that life happens, and sometimes you can't be prepared and you got too much stuff going on, and this might be, low on somebody's priority list. So, for me, and my passion for the last 3 years to make it a priority to give folks this gift, having digital skills so that you can make it in this society. And when I say make it, that's different for everybody. The definition of success is really personal. But being a Denver native, I know how much the cost of living has skyrocketed in the last 20 to 10 to 5 years. And it hurts me to see so many locals literally have to move because they just can't afford to live in the Denver metro anymore. And so I just want you guys to succeed the way you feel like you deserve to succeed. And even sometimes you don't feel like you deserve to succeed. But you have to advocate for yourself. And one way you do that is by showing up and proving that I may not know what I need to know today, but I'm willing to learn so that I can be ready for tomorrow. And those are the people that make it. It's not the people that, I don't know if anybody in here were the cool kids in high school. I got any cool kids in high school on the line today? If you're a cool kid in high school, that didn't really necessarily translate to being successful out in the real world 10, 20 years later. It was the grinders. It's the people that consistently, day in, day out, keep at it, work their way up. And you think I'm kidding? I have an amazing story real quick I want to share about a Swiffy participant. So there's somebody on my team that I was talking to about getting some training. He wanted more professional development. And as we began talking, he shares with me that he was familiar with Swiffy because I was telling him about, that we work with a lot of Swiffy folks. And he said, yeah, I actually had participated in Swiffy a long time ago. And I said, really? How did what were you doing at that time? He said, well, actually, they were offering either a healthcare pathway or IT pathway. And I picked healthcare because it was kind of a low hanging fruit. It was easy to get those certs and easy to get into the job market, faster to get in the job market. I was like, okay, right on. And so how did that work out? He said, it was fine, but, um, I kind of fell into getting these different job opportunities, working at the school, which is where I kind of, well, I didn't discover them, but someone recommended it to me. So to make a long story short, this Swiffy guy is a teacher. He works for me. He's a economics professor to be exact. And he's probably the only person I know, and I've been working with Swiffy for 3 years now, that has went through Swiffy and is pretty much you would consider a professor. Sure, he had a lot of experience, or his background was in understanding economics, and yes, he was an international student, so he did have a master's equivalent from another country. But when he came here to America, none of that counted for jack. He had to prove himself. He had to start from the bottom and work his way up. And one thing I can definitely appreciate about that is the fact that that didn't stop him from continuing to rise. He had a will and he found a way. And part of that journey was thanks to Swiffy, obviously, because they helped him, get the training. They gave him career navigation. And then all of a sudden, he shows up on my radar as someone that I was needing at the time to teach an economics class. And now he's on my team. I mean, that's unbelievable. That's a remarkable story when you think about, like, sometimes Swiffy students end up, most of them go into healthcare or IT. And this guy ended up in higher ed. And you know what he told me? He still wants to do healthcare on the side. Like, he still has a passion to do that kind of work. But he also recognizes and acknowledges what pays the bills. And so I just want to keep iterating to you to just keep going, whether it's, taking a refresher course with us, or, staying on the pathway of getting a certificate or a degree one day. You never know where this journey is going to lead you, but if you get off course, I can definitely tell you where you might end up. And some of y'all already know that. Some of y'all have come from some rough backgrounds. I was not necessarily uh, always this polished, cool guy you see today. I was definitely a diamond in the rough coming out of Montbello, Denver, Colorado. I was blessed to have a little bit of smarts, street and books, but college really transformed me. I don't think if I hadn't have had that experience of going to a 4-year university, I would have been able to really find myself, um, create my own identity, and eventually try to be the most authentic person I could be, never forgetting where I came from, but certainly also wanting to be more than where I was came from as well. And I wish you guys all that and then some. Like, never, ever, ever give up on your dreams. And I don't care how old you think you are, or how tough you've had it in the past, and how much you think people might hate on you for still trying to pursue it. You don't give up on that. Dreams are what makes life worth living. If I haven't gotten anything else from dealing with this COVID stuff, is it really relit a fire in me to pursue your dreams, because tomorrow isn't promised. My mom almost passed away a month ago. I'll never forget that doctor telling me and my siblings that you need to get prepared, because there's your mom might not make it. Once they put her on that ventilator, it's a 50-50 chance, y'all. But my God, he came through. I mean, there were so many prayers that went up for my mom, and she was able to come out of that 30 days later on her own feet, You know, no walker, nothing. And we were just hanging out the other day, and I can tell you, this Mother's Day was definitely one of the most special Mother's Days we had because we knew we could have been missing our mom this particular Mother's Day. So I know some of you might be out there struggling. Maybe you have a loved one that's sick or might have been diagnosed, but you keep praying for that person. You keep letting them know that there is a greater power, and He will heal your relative or your loved one, and He will help you be successful as well. Like, He's not done with you yet. There's a reason why you came to this camp. It's not just because you thought it was a easy way to get into the workforce or a better job or something like that. It's something bigger than that He wants you to do. I know that even for my own life. You know, I am a rare bird coming out of Montbello, and it's because God had a purpose for me, and He has a purpose for you guys. I'm not trying to preach to y'all. I'm not trying to, you know, make you pick your choose religion or anything, but you got to know that I didn't get here on my own. I had a lot of faith and a lot of prayers and a lot of support that got me to where I'm at. And one thing I know about the Swiffy team, one thing I know about what we've done with BootUp camps is everybody cares. Everybody wants to see you guys succeed. That's why, we have so much what we call wraparound support. And when I think of that word, I think of a hug. I think of a big hug that says, okay, this person chooses to want to rise up, and we're going to wrap our arms around them and hold them accountable. But it's a two-way street. You're not going to make it if you don't choose to participate. You're not going to pass an exam if you don't ever open up Gmetrics and LearnKey and do the studying and do the practice test. It's not going to happen that way. You don't get it from osmosis. You got to put in the work. So I appreciate all of you who have put in the work, put in the effort. And if you aren't where you think you need to be to pass, then keep working, keep practicing, and you will get there. For some people, it takes more time than others, but you will get there, you will pass. And it's just kind of like this rites of passage thing, guys. Like I go to this will be our first time not being able to go to a graduation ceremony. And let me tell you, there's always something emotional about seeing students walk down that aisle because it's a rites of passage. Every single student has a story about all the challenges, all the adversity, the highs and lows. But you know what? They never quit. Degrees don't go to quitters. Degrees don't. I know we've heard about a lot of rich people paying for their kids to get into some of these schools, but guess what? Those kids still got to go to that school. It's funny how much they'll spend tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get their kids into school. But guess what? That kid still got to go show up to class. Like, how ironic. Like, you spent all this money. You should have just spent it to pay for the degree. But guess what? The school makes you still go through a process, no matter how much money you pay. Everybody has to go the same way. They have to show up to the class. They have to do the homework. And those who have they get the degrees, they get the certificates. And it's no different for us getting these certifications. It's just a shorter time period, but it's still the same effort. So I just wish you guys all the best. I'm gonna wrap this up. I know we were supposed to do a exercise tonight, but I don't know. something was put on my heart that you guys needed to hear this for our final get together tonight. So I appreciate all of y'all, and I wish you the best. We do have 2 dates that I want to put out there
Yes.
for exams. If you're still interested,